Uh-oh.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everyone at the faculty here in the Orange Hall tonight, and all of those who will be or who are watching us from home throughout our YouTube channel. It is really nice to be presenting these BK Talks today. I will start very quickly. A few weeks ago, Sylvia and Cecile came to me with the idea of organizing something about the impostor syndrome. The word impostor in my native language is a very strong word. It has to do with, probably not the languages, but it has to do with lying, with not being what you should do, etc. But anyway, the conversation moved to something that I started to understand finally way better. Is something that I guess that we all share in our daily lives, not only in academia, but also outside with our personal lives and everywhere else, no? Which is the very common fear to not feel good enough in many aspects. And also not only the fear, but the incapacity, in many cases, to express it and to talk about it, no? So today I think it's a great opportunity that Sylvia and Cecile are providing us with to talk about things that many times stay in the corridors or stay in some corners, but we don't talk up openly. So without further ado, I will introduce just Sylvia. She will be moderating the session, and then we have invited a series of members of our community from teachers. Cecile is the community officer, as well as representatives from the student body. Without further ado, thank you very much for organizing this, and I hope that we have a lot of interesting insights tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Javier. So, welcome to the BK Talks, everybody. Many people are familiar with the following questions, or should I say, horrific thoughts in our minds, such as, what if I don't make it? What if I'm not smart enough? What if everyone else is doing better than I am? When we zoom in on our Faculty of Architecture, this is exactly what is also happening here. In my work as an academic counselor, I come across many students who experience this. They do enjoy the academic life filled with curiosity, creativity, discovery, but there's also this persistent sense of doubt, a fear of failure, the pressure to perform, the feeling of falling behind. We're not doing enough. We are not enough. That's horrible, isn't it? And you know what? These feelings are not only present among our students. Staff members experience it as well. However, no one really talks about it, just like Javier already said. So that what made me think, what is this thing about self-doubt? This habit, often very self-destructive habit of often thinking that you are not good enough. How can we become more open about these feelings of insecurity? Perhaps even normalize it. Tonight we will have a dialogue between lecturers and students, and I hope the audience will join in as well to elaborate a bit more about this culture that we know of, where competition, perfectionism, and performance seem to dominate. I'm really happy to bring this topic to the stage, and I find it wonderful that people are willing to share their experiences regarding the fear of failure and insecurity, since it is so common. And may I also say, it's normal. It is really important to give a voice to these things that we all struggle with. So first of all, thank you, Javier, and your team for letting us use this platform. of BK Talks. All right. So I would like to introduce you to our guests. Like I said, my name is Sylvia, and I'm one of the academic counselors. And where are you? There is Chark, and he's a second-year master student at the architecture track, and he's also a chair of the Archos Association. If I say anything wrong, people please let me know. Huh? Then we have Wout there, and he is a graduated bachelor student, right? Already a master student, or in between, I think.
Almost.
Yeah, almost master student. And he is also a commissioner for education and orientation of the Stilos Association. Then we have Ranim. Thanks for being here, who is a second-year master student at the architecture track. She is curator of the traveling exhibition Reclaiming Space, Reclaiming Narrative, and she likes to use photography as a meaning to start a dialogue. Then we have Adriano, who is also a second-year master student at the urbanism track, right? And he's a commissioner for podcasts and event of the Polis Association, right? Then we have Job, on my other side, who is a staff member at the Architectural Engineering and Technology Department, right? Yes. And also a coordinator of extreme architecture. Now I get to all the lecturers, so I'm saying not enough, but well, at least it's something. Then we have Angeliki. Good to have you here as well. And a good thing is she rushed in from her
Students came with me.
with the students. Hi, students. Thanks so much for joining us. And she's a staff member at the Chair of Methods, Analysis and Imagination in the section of Situation Architecture. Many, many more things, but just short. Right. Then we have Leo. And he's a staff member at the Urbanism Department and also program director of the Bachelor program. And then we have Cecile, last but not least, also staff member at the Architecture Department, module coordinator of several design modules, 1, 2, 4, no, one, yeah, a lot, and also our community officer at the faculty. So welcome all, thank you all for joining me. So now I would like to get to the point where we start sharing things. First, I will share myself, because, of course, I have no idea what this fear of failure is. I'm really good at it, actually. So what I would like to share with you is a moment that is 25 years ago, and I remember it like the day of yesterday. And I experienced some actual self-doubt, fear of failure, a lot. I applied for working at a theater company for group activities during my studies. And my job interview went well. I received the planning for several days of work. And then on the first day that I was supposed to show up, then I got really scared. How am I supposed to do this? What if it goes wrong? I'm not good enough to do this. Who am I kidding? People are paying for this activity, and then I'll be standing there. So what did I do? I called the office. I cannot do this. I'm just not ready. And you know what they did? They said, it's okay, you'll do fine. So I went, and it went well. I even worked there for like 15 years, even after studying. But this first moment of, why did I even come up with this idea to start working there? It was horrible. And it was so important to have someone saying, you'll do fine, it's okay. So that was my moment. So what I would like to hear from you, and I think now is the time that I put this thingy on. Oh, that's me. Wait. Oh, and I can, Javier told me, don't look at that screen, look at that one. Oh, there's one, huh? Yes. Oh, back. Yes. So what I would like to know from you, just shortly, is can you recall a specific moment, just like I just shared, where you doubted yourself, or where your fear of failure affected your performance and well-being? And it could be during your studies here, or of course, during your work here at the faculty. So I would like to start with Wout.
Yes. I think for me the fear of failure starts when I start to compare myself to others. And it's mostly in design studios. I mostly improvise my presentations. So when I stand there and see all the posters of everyone, I start to self-doubt and I start to like, oh, I should have prepared a presentation and I should have done more. So that's where my fear of failure hits. And then when I do the presentation, it will go well, but yeah.
First you have this horrific feeling.
Yeah.
Yes, right, thank you. Thank you so much. Chuck.
Yes, I think one of the many moments I think I recall is the second semester of this year, of this master. I think where, especially during the electives, where we had 3 courses at once, where I think I waited out a bit too long, waiting for like the genius thought. And then I think in the final weeks I struggled a bit to bring it to paper because I was like, oh, this isn't good enough. And I think I just missed the opportunity to, I think, like enjoy the process a bit more and just start, even if it's not like a good idea. But I think it also, I sort of lost the trust a bit to make it a good idea while working on it. And then at the end, I also, I think, really struggled to bring all of them to paper. So I think that's one of the last moments I recall.
All right, thank you. To not make it too static, I go to that side. Cecile. Oh my God.
I can tell something robust, but we just discussed. Like I have every year, when summer's ended and then I start teaching again and I feel like, okay, I really love teaching, but then I start, I'm responsible for this whole group and they have to make a design out of nothing. And so then I put on the switch and I say, okay, I can do this. But it's always it's a threshold I have to get over. But yeah.
And then each time you get up on stage,
once
and
it
then
starts,
you do it.
Of course, it's really nice, and we go on, no problem. But especially when I didn't teach for a while, then it's okay. You have to get into the groove again. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Angelique.
Yes. Last year, I had to apply for a grant. The first step is called the pre-proposal. You have to write in 2,000 words who you are. You are not supposed to send your whole CV. You have to call a narrative CV and show who you are. You have to show how important you are to go through the next steps. The university is organizing workshops, and when you go to these workshops, they tell you, you have to show them that everything you touch turns into gold. Not only you published this book, but this book, because of this book, you were invited in to do this lecture, you had this interview, this sentence, you have everything you touch turns into gold. As a Greek person, this is the Midas mythological story. It's very bad to touch everything that turned to gold. Like it was so difficult. One day I was walking on the street, I called my best friend from bachelor studies, and I was crying on the street, literally, like a student. Thankfully, talking in Greek, so most people couldn't understand. And my friend was able to tell me, whoever you are has nothing to do with 2,000 words. Just go and write and enjoy this writing. And it was unbelievable relieving. The phone call was half an hour. It was not that short I'm describing right now. But she listened and she was like, it has nothing to do. This is just a document. It has nothing to do with you are. Yeah, and the pre-proposal got accepted.
Excellent. You are so much more than 2,000 words. That's correct. That's a good friend. Yeah. Right. So, sorry, Job.
Okay. Well, I would like to share a moment of one of my first lectures. For me, lectures are slippery ground. I think I can present well, but only if you're really into the topic. And in the first lectures, it's always a bit, looking for what you can and cannot tell. And I remember preparing a lecture really well, working the whole weekend on the lecture, putting in beautiful images. And then at some point in the lecture, I was a few minutes late, a few minutes over time. And then suddenly a voice came out of the room saying, "It is time." this was really a killer. And the thing is that I really prepared well. Sometimes when you prepare well, it doesn't work at all. Sometimes when you improvise, it goes fantastic. But anyway, lectures.
Yeah. And was this the inner critic saying that, or it was an actual voice?
No, it was an actual voice coming from me.
Thanks. All right. Rani?
I think I have like this feeling almost every time before deadline or right before presenting a project, like this feeling creeping in. But I think one of the most moment that I will never forget, it was like during my graduation project in the bachelor. Like I was freaked out. I'm not good enough. My project is not really nice. But I decided also not to go like to the presentation. Then I slept and I wake up and I said, okay, I'm going, and I get an advice to have a bottle of water and to drink a sip if I feel stressed. But what happened? I go there. I was well prepared, but like my hands start shaking. I could hardly speak, and at one point I spilled the water all over my booklets. And I ended up hiding my face with the paper I was reading from, just instead of looking to the jury. And then I recognized, like, this moment, like, always was just, this fear, it was staying in my head, but then it began really to reshape how I performed. And after like finishing, and I feel I finished the presentation, I don't have like chance again to explain, oh my God, I have a good work. And I feel like really disappointed. But what makes me really feel good, someone who was like really following my presentation from outside of the group, was like a tutor from other like studio, and came to me, he said, I think your project really good, it was really good. And maybe it's advice for you, just think about too much and just do it. Don't like really come prepared. I don't know who also already knows, like I was prepared. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. All right.
So I every semester, I have the same problem where I get pretty nervous at the final presentations. Because we put in so much effort as teachers, but also, of course, as students into these projects. And the students show up in the morning with all their models and drawings, and it's, you know, I guess it's supposed to be a celebration of the work that we've done. And I get pretty nervous about, you know, how do I do justice to all this effort? And then we have the presentations, and we have a deliberation, and we have all kinds of tricks to make sure that we don't screw up as teachers. And at the same time, and then the students come, and they are sometimes very tired, of course, and eager and nervous. And then I have to tell them what their grade is and why it is their grade. And I have 5 minutes to tell them 6 months of work. I sometimes struggle to find the right words for that. It's a super interesting topic. I think a lot of people struggle with that. But yeah, so
True.
That's me.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hello. I guess an example that comes to mind is something related to some work that we did with the association, but it's about a sort of a group meeting about any kind of project, so it's applicable to also design studios and whatever. Even before worrying about the result, like we started talking about this podcast that we wanted to do among students, and we were really excited. We weren't really imagining the final result, how it would look like. But for months during these meetings, I remember just being obsessed with, like, am I saying the right things? Am I listening enough to others? Am I doing justice to what their ideas are, but also maybe am I showing like already my assumptions as taken for granted and not maybe finding some common ground before. And I remember for months I think we were all kind of struggling with that, and it took us a long time to be confident in what we wanted to do, because first we had to like sort of believe that we weren't saying complete nonsense to each other in a room for months. And it's something that I'm still struggling with. Like, how do you handle a meeting or a group conversation in a way that the outcome is really collective and nice? And yeah, it's hard to find the words and to do justice to others, definitely.
Thank you. And it's also a shared responsibility, of course. Yeah, all right. Okay, thank you. So let us take a closer look at the concept of fear of failure so that we are all talking about the same thing. So what is this thing? Fear of failure. In short, like what my guests are also saying, it is doubting yourself and feeling like, I'm going to mess this up. I don't know what will happen. I'm going to mess it up. You will think you will not meet the expectations of yourself or of others. It can be functional in the sense that it can serve as a motivation to be well prepared for an important event, so that you study really hard for an exam or you prepare yourself for the meeting with the students. But if it becomes too great or too monstrous, let's call it that, you might start avoiding stressful situations or to freeze up. And it often occurs in relation to school or study or at work. So, quite common actually. Now, I looked it up and it says that it can manifest itself in several ways. And I also heard some things about this as well, so you might recognize it. So we have, for instance, the cognitive symptoms, where you may have difficulty concentrating, or you put the water on the on the board, or you may start even to think negatively about yourself and your performance. Then we have the emotional symptoms, shaking. Oh no, sorry, that was another thing. That was physical. What am I saying? Emotional symptoms, like feelings of panic, helplessness, stress, or anxiety. Then we have behavioral symptoms, that you may start to procrastinate or avoid challenging tasks, or the other way around, that you may also start to prepare excessively to try to perform your task. I think if I mention the word all-nighter, I think everyone will know exactly what I am talking about, that you just go on and on and on. And if you think, I will just skip this night of sleep and then I'm prepared, well, I actually heard someone once did 2 all-nighters once, and then when she had to do the presentation, she fainted. So it can get that worse. And then we have the physical symptoms. You may sweat or shake when you have to perform, or your heart rate goes faster. All right. So where does it come from? As a human being, we all have a need to be appreciated. And it can stem from the fear of not being good enough for others and also for yourself. There might be several underlying causes. It could be that you are from a family that really loves to pressure you to perform. You need high grades because that gets you better. You need to be perfect in 2,000 words. Or you can do it from inside. So you yourself can be the one creating immense pressure when you have to perform. So very ambitious people, and I think we all know who is ambitious, I think everyone here, or people with a competitive nature, often tend to push themselves to the absolute limits in all kinds of situations. So it might be that you feel you are not smart enough, constantly comparing yourself, that's what you also mentioned, and you're feeling inferior towards others. And this is what I hear a lot during my sessions with students. In some cases, people already finished their bachelor, and then they are halfway through their master, and they still think they are not good enough compared to others. It still happens. Instead of seeing other people's work as an inspiration, it stresses them out. Others are way further than they are, or they're really hard on themselves, saying, oh, I should have done this and this as a preparation for the guidance session. I didn't do that, so I will just skip this one because my lecturer will not be happy with me, so I better skip this one. And then what happens is, the next session they think, I still didn't do enough, so now I skip the other. And then before you know it, you have skipped 6 guidance sessions, and then people even, skip the whole module out of fear of failure. So what I would like to know, and maybe we shouldn't all respond to this, but I would like to know that the things that I've said just now, do you recognize this? Can you relate to that, either for yourself or maybe what you have experienced with students? I see Angelique doing this a lot, yes.
I thought that after reading the second reason why this may be happening, the internal, you mentioned the external, you will say also there's a third, which is the combination of both, which is my case.
True, yeah.
Because I also grew up in an environment that was expecting, and I also carry elements of that from within. And this is quite the party for, for the imposter syndrome.
True, yeah. All right, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
I mean, the answer is yes. I think I can realize this, and also I think all the other students, because maybe also be a pattern of like the industry in general, or the academic environment of architecture. But I think all-nighters and just being really stressed is just an everyday thing for architecture and the built environment students. So there's a clear yes on that side.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else?
Of course, I also relate to this. Something that came up to my mind was that even if you don't have like specific expectations from, let's say, your family or by the academic environment, when you are interacting with other people, and there is probably a difference in either context or level of knowledge, let's say I'm interacting with a professor and a PhD, already without them saying anything, when you're speaking, and you look at their faces, you're kind of checking, no? Does it make sense? Does it not? What do they think about this? Oh my God, did I say something weird? And that's also a big part of it, is just like the expectations that we all carry, and they clash together when we come together, but then maybe it's not that serious. Like maybe, we're obsessing about it a bit too much, but...
Could be, yeah.
People are not constantly trying to judge you, probably. That's also the thing.
No, but it can be this inner critic who is telling you that. Yeah. All right. So we are in this environment where taking the stage, showing yourself through your work seems to be part of the deal. 2 weeks ago, I read in the Volkskrant magazine a story about this actor who is 88 years old. And he was talking about, of course, the field of work of acting. And he mentioned that doubting and proving yourself is part of this job of acting. And that is what makes it intense. So I was thinking, how about this specific field of work? So my next question is... No, this one. Yes. Is doubting and proving yourself part of our faculty culture? I see you nodding.
Okay,
yes.
Again, I think this, sorry to make another point on this, but I think this is what I mentioned a bit on the industry in general, because it was also on the slide a bit. I worked in like a business and shipping and finance sector a bit for 7 years. And I think in comparison to that, that's why I'm mentioning it, is the mechanism of working, and there's much different, because you have a problem and you solve it as a team or alone, and then you find a solution which is maybe the correct calculation, and then the problem is done, and then you move on to the next one. But architecture or design practice is so different in a way because it's always up for review. It's never perfect, even if you build like a grand building or make the perfect design in a school setting. Maybe it can always be a bit better. So I think it's also psychologically much more pressuring in a way. And also what you said a bit. This is also the industry just operates the same. It's be it in school and industry and. We, as an academic institution, also portray what the industry is about, which is about this constant comparison, stress and pressure. So I think it's part of our faculty culture, yes, but also the general architecture, built environment, job landscape.
Yeah, like you say, it can always be better, smarter, more beautiful, etc. Yes, Leo.
But that's maybe not part of the faculty culture or the industry culture. It's inherent to design culture, I think. And I think there's a big difference between this insecurity, which is necessary to drive you forward, your motivation, your interest, your inspiration, your challenge to yourself. All of these things can be extremely productive. And then, sure, since I think part of our students are very, very, absorbed by architecture, as I was as a student, there's nothing you want to do more than just spend the whole day working on your field of interest. So then, yes, it can happen that it's a one-nighter, but it comes from within. And you're happy to do it. But it's a totally different ballgame if you have the feeling that your teacher says, look, you have to spend an extra weekend if you want to pass this course. Or, look, in industry, it's going to be exactly like this. So you just have to get used to the pressure. That is, I think, a completely different thing that at least as a faculty representative, I would say, don't do it.
Even though the industry might work like that.
Yes, the industry does work like that.
Yeah. Can we change that?
Yeah, that's a different question. Yeah.
True.
Can I respond to that? I would like to add to the discussion. I sometimes tell my students that we are not a factory of drawings, and we are also not the industry. We are a factory of personal development. And then, for me at least, this changes a little bit, because it's not so much about the project, it's about how much did you get out of the project on a personal level. Did you learn enough? And I am not so sure how much you learn at 4 at night when you are changing your drawings.
True.
But of course, this is, I guess a lot of people don't agree with me, but I would like to start the discussion maybe.
On what point? That they wouldn't agree with you?
That maybe we are focusing too much on the design, and we should be focusing on the development of our students. And the design is a byproduct. When you graduate here, then you start working at a design office firm, and then you start making the designs that are built. But we are not making designs here that are going to be built. They end up in a drawer, and you can show them to your grandchildren. But what you take away from this university is that you become better at being who you are. Or at least that's what I like to believe.
Beautiful, thank you.
Can I
Cecile?
add? Well, I hope the culture is a little bit changing, at least in the bachelor. I mean, Leo can tell a lot about it. So a couple of years ago in the bachelor, you also had a cum laude arrangement. Luckily, that's gone, so it's not about grades anymore. And now the first year is without any grades for the design projects. And then so like in ON2, the second project, a big part is just about handing in what you've been doing, little design studies. And we as coordinators, we were afraid that students would just draw a line and then say, okay, it's ready. But the opposite is true. They overdo. They want to make it perfect. So it's really something which is coming from inside very much and has to change. And hopefully we can help change this culture, because it's much more about experimenting, and especially in the bachelor. Later on in industry you can perform, but yeah.
Maybe it's good to say that we decided to stop grading in the first half of the bachelor, because we noticed that students coming from high school would think that they need to score high grades and they need to tick boxes. And the culture that we want to represent is that you can experiment and that you can also fail as long as but then your project can still be sufficient, and that's the point that you can get to that point where you have learned enough as a student, also by failing. And so this is why in the first half of the bachelor we took away of the grades. But this is also still, in a way, an experiment, and we have to see if you say, well, students take it to the other opposite, like doing even overperforming, then of course that's not the idea.
If I may add, and it's fantastic because I wanted to touch on that, the part of the proving, not in our faculty, in any faculty, is connected with the grades. This is there, it's the elephant in the room. So, of course, and a 10 proves something different than a 6. And I have also been advocating that we don't have grades in the master's level either, and it's a pass or fail. And that could be a kind of a small wave creating a bigger change towards the industry, because as an architect, you're not getting a job later based on your grades. You're not going and saying, look, I have a 10 in my grade. You're discussing your portfolio. And this is a very different thing. And there's many stories by well-known architects that some of their student projects were very badly graded, and this actually, Maya Lin, the amazing Vietnam Memorial, it was a really bad grade, and it's one of the most famous projects in the world. So the grading can actually make a bigger change later on outside the faculty.
So who knows, no grades in the master either. That would be wonderful. You wanted to say something as well, yeah.
I'm glad we brought this up because I relate to this a lot. When I found out that this is how it works, like we have lots of, in urbanism, we have lots of presentations that are deadlines. You have to do them, but they're not, at least not as strictly graded. Like you need to do it the best way that you can, but you're not going to come out with like, okay, you got a 10 or a 9. And I was surprised to find out that I was way more motivated to do the presentation when this was the situation, if not the opposite. Like when I was back in my bachelor, every moment of evaluation was like, no, I don't want to go. I really can't. Like, I'm not proud of this project. I cannot talk about it. I cannot pretend that it's a good one. And now, like, I even was telling this to like my friends back in Italy, and they were like, what do you mean you're more motivated when there isn't a grade? I was like, yeah, because I just want to do it well for myself, because I'm there proving to myself that in that moment I can talk about my project. But I think this is a really underestimated element of how the curriculum works. It's giving these chances of forgiveness, sort of, and failure also.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be doing a project for yourself instead of for the grade for others. Yeah.
And failing in front of everyone, and since it's not grading, you say, yeah, you know what, I wasn't the best one, but I learned a lot by doing it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, lovely. Yes. Right, so there was a question related to this one. I think I already got some answers on this. But the question I have is, does this self-doubt arise mainly from yourself, or do you also feel pressured by the outside at the faculty? And Leo already mentioned that sometimes this is, what happens? I don't know, anyone else who would like to comment on that?
For me, this also has to do very much with sort of sensitivity. I noticed that I think of myself as being pretty sensitive, and I feel that others in this university are also very sensitive. And then it can be pretty difficult to communicate and So, for example, sometimes I have an email by somebody, for example, a student, who is not happy about how things go, and then I have to wait for 24 hours. Because I find it really difficult to how to respond, and then after 24 hours I can reply and I say let's go for coffee, and we have coffee and everything is fine. But so it's really interesting how that works, and I guess that's part of me, but it's also why I'm here. If I was not sensitive, then I would not be a good teacher, because I would not see that some students need something else from me, and and I guess the same is true for the students. If you're not sensitive, then for me it feels like there might be a relationship between sensitivity and creativity. Mm-hmm. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not sure, but I imagine that if you're not sensitive, then it's more difficult to make a design, and we need this self-doubt in the beginning of the process, at least. Is this a good solution for who? Why is this not working? We need to ask those questions. And then at some point we need to stop, and that we don't do. And then we get into trouble.
True.
Yeah.
And then we can reach out. Well, that's what I hope for,
yeah.
Yeah, so that is also the part of being here, is to express your passion, that you love what you do. And then sometimes it goes the wrong way, and then you are starting to doubt, should I be doing this? And luckily, with the changing, then you do it for yourself and enjoy. Yes, wonderful. All right. So what I'm also curious about, another question. Now that we know about what self-doubt and fear of failure can do in a bad sense, I'm also curious to know whether you have ever experienced it the other way around. So my question is, have you ever experienced moments at the faculty where you were happily creating and enjoying yourself, where you specifically did not experience self-doubt and fear of failure, that you were in like a flow, where you look back and realize that you actually did good? I see Ranim already taking the mic.
Yeah,
yes!
Because this moment doesn't happen so easily. But I feel like really when I did one of my projects, which I feel it's really meaningful, related to who I am and what I want from this study, I felt really experienced, and I stopped thinking if it's okay or not. I just enjoyed like the process. I felt sometimes, and I redo my work again. I felt it's really the most moment, like I enjoyed my work, and the result was really convenience for me and good. So I think like the most important to stop for me, like doubting, like to do something you really have interest in, and it's really give you that you are doing something so meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a wonderful contribution.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wout?
I think in my last project in the bachelor, my teacher was really supportive, and also I found out that teachers don't always know the answers to everything, or sometimes say something, and then I was like, I don't really get why you say this, because I think it's the other way around. And then I started to enjoy it, because I was like learning about being critical to that. And then I just started to think by myself, oh, let's just make something that I'll be proud of to show in my portfolio. And then I got a drive to finish it.
Nice. I saw some reaction here about teachers not always knowing.
Never.
Yeah.
It's one of the first things I told my students. We don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
We will tell you when we don't know. But a moment of joy, of course we don't know. We just happen to know a little bit more on something specific. I think that's the main difference. Just because we're older, it's an issue of time mostly. But the experience about the moments, to me, the beauty of being surrounded by all these very creative minds and all this is that you communicate something in a course, a lecture, a seminar or something, and then maybe after a month, after a year, a student stops and goes, I remember that and I read that, or I saw this exhibition and I thought you would also really like it because, or I saw this movie, have you read this book? I really want to tell you about this book. Or very recently I had an incident on a course that one student got emotional because she felt like super strong about what we were discussing at the course. And these moments is the reason why I want to be here. These moments, like I keep walking and I literally feel I'm not touching the ground. I know I'm touching the ground, I'm not crazy. But it's this elevated feeling that one thing you may have said touched somebody, to take it outside the class, to be something more meaningful. And this is really, this is the magic that makes you want to be here.
Thanks. Yeah.
Can I add to that?
Of course.
I really like to point out that if teachers would know everything, then I guess the best we could do is have students become as good as we are. And that's the end of humanity. Huh? That's the only way is down. So I like to think of myself of supporting my students to become better than I am. Huh? It's a pretty important basic understanding. So they need my support, and I try to help them to find a way to develop themselves. And I guess that's the most important. I also know a few things about steel and wood and so on, but it's not, you don't need that. You can find that out yourself.
This might also relate to that a slide. I think it's in the system, isn't it?
Would be nice.
Let's see. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
What's this? Oh, no, that's a different one. Let's see. No,
oh,
no, it's not there. Sorry. Back.
Javier says backwards.
Someone
backwards.
outside of the video says, go back. Just a second. Let's have a commercial break here.
Yeah, this one.
There you are. There you are.
There should be an animation, but
there should be an animation,
I'm not sure
because
if
that's
it works.
the most important thing.
Yeah,
yes.
that's it. So I show this slide to my students, and so this is obviously the way the university is organized. And then I have an animation where the organogram turns around 180 degrees, and the students drop in from the top, and I say, this organization is here to support the students, huh? And I feel the support of Leo, and of Sylvia, and of the dean, and I try to support my students in their personal development. And I think that is completely the same organization, but it's sort of, you look at it in a different way, and it's not like the dean is my boss, or at least it doesn't feel like that. I feel like we have this organization which together we are trying to support these students to become better at what they want to be.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. No. Now let me go back to this one. Yes, and go on and on. I see in my in my corner of the eye, I see someone like this. Yes. All right. So there was a nice bridge to where I would like to go to. It is high time to change the bubble. How can we change the idea of thinking that you will never be good enough to that you are good enough as you are, and just developing yourself? What could be a first step? And what is needed from yourself, from your fellow students, from your lecturers, for your colleagues? I know that Joop always shows a video to his students, and will show this afterwards to the audience. It will not be on the recording. Too bad for the people at home, but you will be you will be able to see it afterwards, so don't go away yet. But I will tell you a slight bit about it. This person that is doing this video, he emphasizes that a studio is a place of experimentation. And he says, and I quote, "What I want to do is to fail, and fail often, fail fast. Not take months and years to fail at something. That is terrible. Just go through ideas as quickly as possible and fail at them. So that there is, if you like, this continual process." It's also the process that you were talking about. unquote. So it's a lovely example of how to see our studies here at the faculty as a way to learn, instead of it having to be perfect each time you show something to the outside world. So, here comes the next question. What are your thoughts on how to shift this culture toward one that is more generous, open, and supportive? Like I said in the beginning, to many people it's quite difficult to share that they have these feelings of fear of failure. What can we do about this? Chark, would you like to start?
Yeah, I think I was just asking myself a bit different question, because I think what you said is so interesting, that you said you're sitting here because you're sensitive, but also, and you all said so wonderful things about like how about the no grade system and how it sort of motivates more people. But I'm always, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking like what to do about, as a student, from my perspective, what do I do about the tutors who don't follow that, you know? Because you choose a studio, you maybe not even know the tutors, you maybe not know the content, and then you're in a studio which is like really, and these studios exist. I know from experience, and also from hearing others, there's like a really high pressure, and the tutors would never come to the idea to say like, we just don't do grades, just have fun. I think they want it to be as pressureful as the industry, and they think it's a bit of a different question, or maybe not, but it's more like maybe also a question of advice, or also to the other students, like how do you navigate that situation? If it is pressureful, because you also have no way of arguing everything, because in the end you get a grade, and there's a real, not fear, but there's a real potential of failure, as in failing the course, and then also failing the degree. So I think that's a bit of the question, is like how do we shift that part of the culture?
Anyone who would like to reply on that?
I only can say what I've experienced when I meet teachers who want to pressure their students because of their self-insecures, because they want to show off with the projects. I don't hire them again. But it's simple as that. But of course, there are other situations, and maybe talk about it with fellow students or with others. And it's...
Talking about it is a huge step. We don't talk, and we're still going to keep not talking for a while, even after this beautiful talk. 3 years ago, I was doing a studio, an MSc2, with a colleague, and we had this brilliant idea of doing something, a big surprise halfway through, and actually making the students exchange these other projects. You have been working for 5 weeks on your project, and then make the other student take over your project and continue. Well, it was not received well. We were so amazed by this thought that it will be fantastic, because it's the whole experience of architecture you design for somebody else, right? At the end of that day, after the course, the students, we could see there was a bit of stress in the room. At the end of the day, we received a very professional, very well-written email. I was reading this email, and full respect of how it was written alone. And the students expressed their concerns. And we didn't do the change. We didn't do the change. The professors have a voice, the students have a voice. And it depends also how we put how we use this voice. We didn't do it. We continued the studio without this change. And we actually told the students, we appreciate for pointing all your doubts about why this cannot work. What do you do if a professor does not listen even to that? Maybe it's another thing, but also you have a choice of what studios you're picking. You have a choice to stop following a studio. Mm-hmm. I took longer graduating. My studies were 5 years, and they took longer because I wanted to avoid some situations that I was not comfortable with. There's more radical also.
And dialogue is an important thing, huh?
I would also like to, so from my personal opinion, let's say, is that I get really nervous for the first lecture when the studio starts, because for me it feels like this is the one chance to get started, and it's the one chance to win the confidence of the students. And for me it's really important that the students know they can find me, and I tell them, you can call me, you can WhatsApp me, and you can email me. And some teachers say, are you sure you share your mobile number? But I feel like, it's super important to give them the idea that you are, they can reach out. Yeah, so I think that is, for me, at least a start. But at the same time, I think it's something we always need to keep working on, because it's super difficult to do this so right. And I'm quite sure that everybody has the proper intentions, but it's difficult to find out what works for.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, one more point about the pressure. A bit, I think. It also shouldn't be labeled as like inherently bad. There's also, I think it can also work in a way of educating students for whatever may come in, I don't know, life. But I think building a bit of pressure is also fine, and it's also fair. It's also this academic setting. And something maybe what also we as an association have pushed really hard for and worked really hard on is, I think, just transparency. Because we are really working really hard on an archive, for example, which then increases transparency of this university and also choosing the courses a lot. So if you are fine with having a high pressure studio, and you still enjoy the process or the topic, or that's at least what we believe, you should at least know what you get yourself into. And if you think then it's fine, okay, I have to produce a lot of drawings, models, it's a high pressure environment, but I want to go in there because it's also fine. I think that's maybe one like concrete building block to make it more open, at least, just transparency.
Yeah. I ask every other week or so, I ask every student, do you have enough stress or do you have too much stress? And if you have too little stress, you don't get anything done. If you have too much stress, you don't get anything done. And then I ask them, what do you need from me to get in this zone? And you can talk about these things. And it works really well.
It's a good question. What do you need from me?
Yeah.
And to find this balance between not having any stress versus having too much stress. Where do you? And that's personal, of course. Mm-hmm. It depends per person how much they need or can take. Leo?
Yeah, I wanted to come back on your point. I think transparency is good. It's a good point. But so, yes, studios could advertise themselves as high-pressure environments. But of course, as a faculty, I don't think we can accept that that socially unsafe studios exist, right? So, yes, high pressure sometimes is functional, is good, it's challenging. But if it's unsafe, it's not okay. And we, as a faculty, must speak about that, say, in our responsibility as teachers or coordinators. But the students also have to say this. It's also your interest, and you have to defend it, I think. And you have to make your voice heard. If you are in an environment that is too strong, then you have to let us know.
True.
Yeah,
Well?
and that also really starts by talking to other students. And if you don't know how to handle it, come to study associations and everything around that.
Or academic
Exactly.
counselors. I know a few. Ranim, did you also want to share something?
I think, is it working?
Yep.
Okay. When you were talking about as teachers, and you have to take, or institutions, you have to take care of there is really good, safe social experience at the studio, but also as students, we have also to take this step and also talk about what we are facing. I don't want to talk also about myself. Maybe I went through this process and I learned how really to talk directly to my tutors, to my fellow students. But until today, there are students who are always also feel difficult to share this with their tutors. I think we always, or I really advise to talk to people who you trust first. Speak loudly. Also with people like friends or someone like Sylvia. Just when you open the conversation, you listen to yourself more. You stop like being in this cyclist of negative again. I am not good. I'm not. And sometimes also blaming tutors. Sometimes it's really not about like the tutors of yourself. It's about something in your mind. But when you talk about it with someone you trust and someone like begin with you this conversation, it's begin to see like the positive things and you trust yourself. It's not always working, but it's really good to have this begin. Just talk loudly. Don't like go at your house alone. Think about it. You will not really have a good solution if you stay alone. That's my advice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's work in progress, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. Adriana?
Everything that has been said is really wonderful. One after the other, the stakes were getting higher and higher.
Now it's up to you.
Yeah, I wanted to add a small thing which kind of echoes also what has been said. Yes, it's good to ask for help and to look for trusted people to share your struggles with. Yes, it's good to open up and speak directly to the professors, directly in those occasions where there are, as we said, unsafe studios or unsafe learning opportunities. It is really important to do it together, though. Like, we forget that for every one person that is able to speak up, there are 10 others that are not for any reason or another, no? So I think one thing that I would like to see more and more of between students is this kind of solidarity of across personalities. Like, let's say there's some people that can really handle the pressure. They came here for the pressure, no? And those people are often doing their thing. It doesn't really matter if the environment is unsafe to other people, right? So there should be this sort of, maybe we should be better also at creating spaces where the conversations can be facilitated, because sometimes it's just about sending messages to each other and arriving to a conclusion. But I think it's important to recognize that other people might be suffering more than you or less than you, and that you are all in the same boat. Because if just one student wrote that email, probably you would have, exactly. So at one point they got together and they said, okay, this might be fine for some, but it's not fine for everyone. Let's do something about it. And that is something that, I mean, we are all in this together. We are all students at the same level, even though we sometimes, you know, there's distance between everybody. So that's good. Solidarity.
Yes, solidarity, indeed. And also maybe something for the associations to facilitate that, huh?
And remember that we have also, as associations, we have people that go to meetings with the, with the faculty and are able to express some of our concerns and influence a little bit how things are done. So worst case scenario, just go to someone that is in Polis or in Argus or in any other association and tell them, I've been having so many problems with this one thing and I really don't know who to talk to. Do you know anything? Some people that have been here for one more year, maybe they know the system a little better and they can offer some guidance. So that's for sure something that you guys can do.
So good that you were here. All right, let's move to the audience, because I'm curious about whether maybe you also have some thoughts. Well, the same question actually. How could we shift this culture? Or maybe a reflection on what you've heard this evening. Is there anyone who would like to share their thoughts? Ah, there, I see someone. Yes. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you for sharing your thoughts so far. I think you've said a lot of brilliant stuff. I want to add on one point, which I think is very important, might have been overlooked a little bit, is the power dynamic between teachers and students, because I agree it would be great if we can have a culture where every student has the ability to speak up and we say, yeah, just students come speak up with us, but I do think that the teachers have a responsibility and that we have to remind them from time to time of their responsibility, because they have so much more power in shaping the culture, the environment, the whole vibe of the studio. Is this a studio where we take care of each other. And I don't think that it's enough to say, yeah, we just put pressure on you until the students speak up and say it's too much. That should not be the approach. And I do think there was somewhere in there, but it's not just the responsibility of the students to make sure that this culture is happening. But I think a very big part of it is, it's the responsibility of the teachers. They have so much power in shaping the whole culture and the whole vibe of the studio.
And of course, we are all part of the culture, so it is actually a shared responsibility, but you might be right that the initiative could be with the lecturers, but also as a student, please do feel free to also take the stage on that. Yeah. Maybe any other, there I see another one, yes?
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. So I think something that's very important and something I certainly decided to do when I decided to do my master's was to not see my fellow students as competition, but rather as inspiration. And I think it's not that easy to do because I think sometimes we're wired to think that we're competing for the same jobs after we graduate or just for the feeling of being seen as better than others. And when you shift that mindset, you really get a lot more out of the experience, I think.
So to use your fellow students as an inspiration source.
Yes.
Yes.
And
wonderful.
also because architecture, urbanism, design careers are so broad in the sense that you can go through so many interests that you're actually not competing with anyone, because I think there's a place for all of those interests later in the industry or in academia. Like
True.
You're not actually competing with someone for the same job.
Thank you. Anyone else? Maybe? I do see someone pointing. No? No? That's all right. Oh, yes, there's someone. Hi, you're
hello.
welcome.
I really like the topic of the tutoring being important and how tutoring can basically affect the stress that's put on students. And maybe wanted to hear a little bit from the staff of the faculty. Like in my old university, it was common to have a self-evaluation brought forward from the students anonymously to the studio, whatever, and what they would think about implementing something like that in TU Delft as well. Some studios do it, some don't. It's not coherent throughout the faculty, I think. So yeah, what's the thought about this?
Thank you for that question. Maybe any of the staff members? Yes?
Well, I can say something about the procedure for the bachelor because that's my turf. We have regular quality questionnaires being sent out to the students, and so I'm explaining the procedure. So we have these questionnaires where students can reply on what they thought of the studio, what they thought of their teacher, what they thought of the assignment was, etc., etc. And quality assurance here has a review of the outcomes of the questionnaires, and if there are quality issues that come out of this, we have a mandatory talk with the studio coordinators, and we expect that they produce an improvement plan, and then. Of course, the next step is that this will be implemented. So this is a quality assurance procedure that is in place for the bachelor. And I don't know exactly about how the master, but I imagine something like this exists also in the master.
I'm going to start by saying that also in my previous university, this was part of it, and it was mandatory. It was extremely important In my annual meetings with the director as a faculty, these reports were there and I would be evaluated like my continuation. People to get tenure, this was a really important part. We had to submit all the students' evaluation. It was that serious. But it had also a very interesting strategy that I'm trying to implement here, along with the grades. The period to fill in this was after the final submission, after the final course, and before the grades. Because this is not happening still here, at least at the master's level. And that, unfortunately, sometimes makes tutors like me and colleagues saying, okay, the students with the bad grades are actually filling in with their complaints, and we don't see. So there was a control on the timing, because, of course, sometimes there may be emotional reactions to a bad grade, or to avoid disqualifying them, because they were actually really important. So this is also something we're discussing at the master's, because for now they're also qualitative, exactly as you described, but the students can still fill after the grade. And we're actually questioning how much this influences or not what we're receiving.
Because if I'm correct, it is already changed in the bachelor, right? That first it is discussed and then later on the grade is given. Is that correct?
I think that indeed the questionnaire is sent before shortly before the final presentation.
But when is the deadline?
After.
After. I think that's...
Okay. My colleague of ON2, who's also coordinator, he did a questionnaire to all the students before the grading and also personal on the tutors, and he made a nice Excel and sent them afterwards also to the tutors. And it was, well, okay, but that's quite direct, but it went really well.
It went really well.
Yes,
yeah.
and it was for only a couple of them confronting, so luckily a lot of students were really okay with their teachers. But actually it's a nice, I think we really should evolve on that, and we can do it better, because to collect them in all and then going through quality, and then it's a bit too impersonal. Yeah.
Good point. Thank you very much. I think we should do this.
And as to also, I will come to you, but thanks. To express the voice of the students that I often hear, many students feel that they indeed should not say what they actually feel because they are graded. They are afraid. Sometimes even people say, up until my graduation, I'm not going to say anything.
But one more thing in the step from my previous experience, we would receive these reports also anonymously after the grades.
Yeah.
So it's not that we would receive the results and then grade, okay? So the students would have to find a deadline before getting grade, and we would receive the outcomes after having submitted the grades. To take this whole grade concern and proving yourself and, you know, this big thing out as much as possible out of the equation.
Yeah. Sorry, one more thing. As a teacher in the masters, and then there are evaluations after the grades and after the project, and that sometimes feels a bit like backstabbing, because then I can't change anymore. So really, before that, I really would like have discussions during the project, and then I can still adjust. So that's, yeah.
Yes? Oh, can we get a mic up there? Oh. It's coming down. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. I connect to the last comment of Cecile. I teach mainly in the bachelor, and I think it all comes back to communication, that you create an environment with the students that you both can grow. Also, the teacher can adapt to the learning needs of the students, because you see different levels. So you want the good students to grow, and also the one who need more attention to get enough time to discuss and help. So that's why I think you need contact moments a lot, or enough. And also deadlines, I have to say. Students, I always start with, you have 140 hours for this course. How are you going to spread these hours? We will only meet this amount. What are you going to do to make them responsible? I say, I know the content. It's your life. Give it a go. Yeah, and sometimes I feel that the students are having so much on their plate, also becoming part of a social community, etc., that they feel overwhelmed. So I'm not having the feeling that they are always very ambitious and that sometimes they really need to grow and feel supported.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think we can move on. Yes. All right. So, next question. If we go to well, not yet the wrap up, but just before that, I would like to hear from all of you after having heard many things, many beautiful things, many work in progress issues. What would be your wish regarding how to proceed? What would be a good next step? I see a lot of people thinking. Anyone who knows something right now? No pressure. Not at all.
One thing that comes to mind is to keep doing things like this, try to involve more people of the faculty somehow, and really put attention to this topic, because now, I mean, the people that really don't care to discuss these topics are not here, right? Sure. And it happened to me when I was chatting about coming here in the past week. I ended up in a conversation with two random people from the faculty, a student and a professor, both from architecture. They were very kind of weird reactions, and one of the things they asked me was, but so is the plan to just do a big pity party where we all sit down and talk about how bad we feel about ourselves? And I was like, damn, you really need to come to the talk, because you have no idea what it means to just share and go from there and try to build something different. So I think, more people should be involved in this conversation. It should be an ongoing conversation.
And then the next question is how can we involve them? Well, maybe anyone else has a...
Yeah, I would also say just continue talking about it, and also continue talking about it amongst tutors, because I think I see a lot of students here on the Tribune. And I also think the generation, I don't know, my generation or the generation that comes after is really open to talk about feelings and about the potential of failing. I think this is a thing that shifts and it's really good in a lot of ways. But like I said, I think keep talking to other tutors about this also, that also the people in the back hear it and treat students more nicely. Also coming back to this power dynamic a bit.
Thank you.
I think also maybe have mandatory evaluation moments after midterm presentations or something like that, so that the students know how to improve, but also the teachers know how to improve and what they both need from each other. So you can improve the whole group.
Nice. It's again about this dialogue, and what do you need from me? And then both ways, actually. Thank you. Yeah.
To me, to open up a little bit outside ourselves, what we carry and we bring into this conversation, the faculty, the field of architecture, the industry, is also to find some moments within the faculty to recognize that there's also a societal issue. There's a lot of pressure, okay? A lot of pressure. All the Instagram feeds are about who is the best building, the best, constantly. There's as a generation, you as students, you are getting so much more competition from the world outside BK that is part of what you're looking at, part of what you're doing. And how we can also find some techniques, some methods to actually deal with that as well. It's a society that is the youngest to do that, the best to do that constantly. So we also need to look at that and also realize that being architects is one part of who we are. And there's so many other things that we are. And we need to create this balance. And this is in how we build courses as professors, how we do research. There was a professor a few years ago from industrial design that got a grant on the topic of the resilient designer, not the resilient design. How can we educate the resilient designer? And was actually starting by inviting students to share moments of great failure and professors of great failure, and worked on that for 2 years in order to create an environment in which we understand the bigger picture as well, and we bring it into the conversation.
Beautiful. And then to put that on Instagram, so there can be a different way.
I have
to show
stopped
that.
being on social media 2 years now. I've been telling my students because I was so unhappy by seeing how much better everybody else was. All my bachelor colleagues that were doing so much better. It's fantastic not to be checking.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting to, if you have to choose a course as a student, I imagine that you can go for a housing or a complex or all these different courses, but all these names say something about the architecture, and they don't say anything about the way of teaching. And what we've been doing for the last, 8 years or so, is that all the teachers do a short presentation at the start of the course, and then the students can choose who they would like as a teacher. And it works really well. It's not fully developed, I think, but it works really well in the sense that the teachers, they are insecure and they tell the students that they like Italian food, and then the students, they quite often they feel which teacher might work for them. And I think it's something that we could improve, maybe. But I think these kinds of tricks might be interesting, and that you don't only choose the topic of the studio, but also the way of teaching, maybe.
True. Yeah. Good. Cecile?
We do that in ON4, and that really works well. So it's not hard to organize, and then teachers. But also, I think students talk amongst each other and about different ways of teaching, or is that an illusion? Do you have your own channels of
back channels?
Yeah.
Now you have to be transparent. Huh?
Yeah, you have lists of
Sorry, what was the question?
it's impossible. You're not talking among students about where to go and where not to go, right? Or is that
yeah, there are some studios that we
advise not to go,
or advise to go if you are really into the subject. But yeah, we ask everyone around us, like, oh, is this studio hard to do, or is it easier? And then adapt to that in your planning.
What I realize now, listening to the story, and this is really something that came up just now, is that as a program director, I am constantly in communication with the faculty, with both students and with teachers about, asking for feedback, basically, presenting plans, asking for feedback. But I realize that I'm probably much more aware of this, what is going on at program level than on a personal level. I'm also a graduation teacher, and I often have no idea what the students think about my teaching. So I think this and it's simply because I don't ask them about it. And I think, Cecile, what you were talking about it for ON2 is really a best practice in the faculty. And I think so. That's my New Year's resolution now in September. That I'm going to do this with my students from now on. I'm going to ask them for more feedback.
Thank you. Lenny?
I mean, like when said about as a student, like Job, when you said like ask about like the way of teaching, it was really interesting for me, because most of the time when I like engage with other like fellow students, ask them about like the studios, I really look about who are teaching there, how they are like kind of thinking, and most of the time I go like with the topic I like, but really I am so curious about the tutors, because I think when I am I feel comfortable with the tutors, I'm more creative, more like beyond my like myself giving more, but I feel uncomfortable like with the tutors. Also, if I like the topic, I feel I isolate myself and stop really giving my ideas. Also, kind of scaring of judgment. So I think it's really, I don't know, it's really important if you feel safe or you have these feelings most of the time to think about like the way of teaching. This is like nice like to begin also with it.
And it would really help if the lecturers would from the start ask, how am I doing?
To be honest, I don't really trust like when like always like when you talk about yourself, you don't know also sometimes so directly like how you really teach. Or I trust more like students who already has experience. Of course, like each student has his own experience, but you can also ask more and more students. Like you get more image than like have like this short presentation. As also one of my experience, like tutors stand and show, this is what we did, this is what we made, and then you are looking for, you feel like it's just someone show you what he is doing, like who, but you don't know him as a person.
It's like the 2,000 words that were asked. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Adriano?
Yeah, I was just thinking, yes, of course, it's good to ask for feedback. It depends, of course, also on who you are, because if you already, with the way you speak and the way you ask the question and the way you hold the room, if you already welcome people, they're going to maybe be honest. But then they're not going to have so much to say negatively about you. If they do have something negative to say about the way you deal with them or teach to them, then you're probably already not making space for that conversation to happen in the room, no? So sometimes also when you're with another 100 students, I don't know that you feel comfortable enough to go, actually, I didn't like this and that, and you were a bit of an asshole in this situation. Like, no, that's not, it doesn't happen. So we need to find other ways. It's like an ongoing conversation about how to get in the uncomfortableness, because we need to be in there, but we need to know how to deal with it to come together, right? So.
And to become comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah, maybe we need to bring in some therapists or something and like teach us how to...
or improvisation theater, that also works.
Or it's actors.
Yes. All right, thank you very much for all your contributions. I would really like to express my gratitude to all of you who were here. It took courage to talk about your experiences, your moments of self-doubt. And I hope this dialogue will contribute to normalize these feelings that we've talked about this evening. That our audience and the people back home, that they recognize this as well. That by talking about it, it's a possibility to connect with others. That it's okay to sometimes fear that what you are doing might not be enough. That it's okay to sometimes doubt whether what you are doing is up to the standards of the faculty or even up to your own standards, that are often even higher. And I hope that together we can start seeing this environment, the Faculty of Architecture, as an actual playground where we can learn things, where we can make mistakes, where we can talk openly about fearing failure, and that is completely normal, that we can support each other. And my message to you is feel free to contact your lecturer, your fellow students, your colleagues, or an academic counselor to continue this dialogue. Thank you for your attention and enjoy your evening.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. May I have the clicker? Thank you, Sylvia, and thank you all. There's nothing much I can say after the very beautiful words that you just mentioned, so I will say very little. One of the things that I just wanted to say is that it is great. Somebody during their conversation, preparatory conversation on Friday, mentioned it's great that this faculty is giving us the opportunity to have this kind of conversations for starters, no? And reminded us that there are many other institutions very close by, where these options are sometimes not possible. So I think it's great. And to the comment about the PT party, I would tell that's really hurting. That's really hurting in a way, because sometimes what I think is that in this kind of conversations, we are always the same. And there are other parts or other ways of thinking that are not present in these conversations. So for me, that was a great reminder of how to do better, how to improve the fact that somebody making that comment can come here and engage into this conversation. No? I think that would be, let's say, ideal for me. Anyway, I just want to end the evening by giving you the announcement of the BK Talks that we're having next week. It's sort of a fast pace, but sometimes, well, when the scholars are here, we have to take the opportunity of having them be part of our BK Talks. So Faranak Miraftab, she will be visiting us from the United States next week. She will be the entire week, or I don't know exactly all of it, involved in other activities that are being already announced. One of the things that I wanted to share during these BK Talks, which is the first BK Talks this year, I was going to introduce, not the previous one, because it had a different format, was to talk about some things that impact me and that we don't dare to say. We have fear. We are all talking about silence. As I mentioned, things we don't say. And in the end, I decided not to read what I was wanting to read this week because of personal reasons. But what is great is I found this text that Faranak shared with us, explaining what she is going to be doing next week. And I would like to share it with you because it, in a way, talks about what is I having in my silence in the last months. She says, and I open quotes, "Recognizing the darkness of this historical moment, I stress the potential for our ongoing efforts to decolonize spatial pedagogies and foster more inclusive imaginaries of urban futures. I draw on my research on transnational urbanism, displacement, and everyday practices of radical care that emerge from co-produced situated knowledges and the epistemologies of the Global South. I make a case for a feminist lens that uncovers the underworld of the urban and the termite work that not only dismantles oppressive structures of patriarchal racial capitalism, but may promise a different urban future, a humane urbanism centered on life, not profit." I close the quotes. This is something that she wrote, and she will be with us next week. So please join us next week on Tuesday. Thank you very much. Have a good night.